Okay, so today is hive inspection number 2 with this hive. I'm gonna go ahead and just take everything off and get it ready. So I had some questions about this feeder I have on top here. And really all it is it just holds a bunch of sugar water in it. They come in, drink it, and take it back down into the hive to either store or use for building the wax comb. Now why that's important to do right now is it takes a lot of energy to build this comb out on these fresh frames. So when they're building it, they need to have a lot of sugar to help them out. Queen excluder. Right, this is the top box. Again, I don't expect there to be much of anything in here other than maybe a few frames in the middle here they're going to start drawing out. So yes, this middle frame here is the one they're really working on. As you can see, front and back, they're starting to draw comb out on it in this top box. It's really the only one, apart from the one directly next to it, that they're even working on. I'm gonna take this box off and set it off over here. Don't want it. You always, excuse me, you always lay your boxes on their side. You don't want the bees getting directly on the ground, and you really just don't want anything to happen to it. So you really want to stand it on its side. That's the best way to really set your top boxes up. One thing I did in the last video was I over smoked them, which probably made them even more agitated. So you want to use some smoke, but not a whole lot. It really bothers them if you use a whole lot of smoke. All right. So when working from a hive, it just depends on how comfortable you are with it. You always want to go, well, I like to go from outside in. Take these couple of frames out that they're not really working on. There's nothing on them yet. They haven't built out that far. And slide them over. And pull them out. Because again, they're not doing anything with these just yet. The sugar water that I'm feeding them will provide them with enough energy to draw these frames out, but it'll take several weeks because they're working from the inside out. Now I did learn something over the last week. I did learn something that you should, when you start a new hive, it's best if you checkerboard your frames. Don't do like I did and put them 5 frames in the middle, because it doesn't encourage them to leave the middle. They just kind of stay here and just work on what they're already working on. All right, so last week, if you remember, you can go back and watch that video. I'll try to put a picture of it up, if I can do that in editing. But this frame had almost nothing on it last week. And as you can see, there are quite a bit of drone combs on here. They've actually packed some of this with pollen already. It's not quite as drawn out as you would like it to be, but they are doing a pretty good job in drawing that out. And the sugar water does help them with that. I also got some new gloves that are my size, so I might do a review on them later on and see how they hold up, see if I'm able to do more things with these gloves than the other ones. The other ones it was all a kit when I bought the hive and everything. just came with it. Okay. So this is, again, this is going to be our first frame from, it's going to be our first frame from the Nook here that I'm going to pull out. The bee is not happy with me. Okay. Lots of good stuff here on this one. Lots of honey, nectar in the corners. Lots of brood going in. And unfortunately, because there's not a lot of drone comb, they are packing this pretty full of pollen. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but they have this comb very well packed full of pollen, so the queen cannot really lay in there because they packed it so full. But good news is this is just the outside frame, so she probably wasn't going to do much laying in this anyway. Okay, again, we're trying not to over smoke them like I did in last week's video. We're trying to just get them just smoked enough so they don't really know what's happening, so I can come in, do a very quick hive inspection, and then put them back like they were. Because when you do these, it takes them several hours. Sometimes it can take them even the rest of the day to recover from this. So with this frame, right now, right across the way here, right over there is about an acre and a half field of just straight Dutch clover, and it is producing a lot of nectar right now. And I'll try to show this as best I can. I don't know if you can see in these cells or not. I'm trying to show it, but it is just packed with pollen and nectar everywhere, and that's not really a good thing. It is a good thing if you have a full hive, but when you have a young hive like this, you don't want your workers to be filling up these combs like this. You want them to be full of eggs. It's nice for them to have food. They don't really need that right now. They need more eggs. So I'll have to do a little research, find out what we can do about that. That was frame number 2 from the original Nook. So we're gonna move on to frame 3 real quick here. Again, I'm not gonna bother showing it just because it's the same thing. They're packing the cells full of the clover nectar, literally right 50 yards to my left here. So they're just packing it full of just honey, of nectar and pollen. So I'm gonna do something today that should encourage them to build more comb a lot faster than they are. They're not building comb fast enough to accommodate the queen and her laying. So what we're gonna do when I get done checking these frames is we're gonna checkerboard them. I'm gonna put some of these empty frames in between these used frames, so that way it encourages them to build. It encourages them to build more comb on those empty frames, because they really do not like the empty space between their already drone combs. So it'll kind of force their hand a little bit into drawing out the comb on those empty frames faster, because they just don't like that empty space. Again, I'm going to have to tear this excess comb off here. We don't want them building where they're not supposed to. Alright, this is going to be the fourth frame. This is the frame, I believe, where we found the queen at last time, on the bottom of this frame. I don't see her today, but I am just doing a very quick inspection today, just to kind of be a little faster than I was last time. Kind of stay on top of everything. Now this frame actually has more open sails. Not a lot, but there's plenty of capped brood on here. Not on this side. This side is kind of empty, but that's actually, there's actually a lot of larvae on this. Larva, however you say it. There's a lot in these cells. I'm gonna try to show it to you. I doubt you can see it, but in those cells, if you can see white, this looks like a circle almost, like a white circle. At the bottom of these cells, that is the larvae. So the queen is still actively laying, which is good. So we know there is room for her to actually lay. That's very important. And I don't see her on this frame. She might be on that last frame. Queen's typically not on the last frames, but with her running out of space to really lay anything, she might be back here. So I'm gonna get this last frame out here. Okay, so this is the last nook frame that I have. These cells are a lot emptier than the other cells, which is good. The queen can still lay in these areas. Again, I don't see her today. I'm not really trying to find her. I did that last week. I see plenty of larvae in here, so I know she's still around. A lot of nectar going in on this frame too, which will be honey over time. Again, I do not see her on this frame either. All right, so this is one of the frames. This is one of the frames I'm going to checkerboard with. As you can see, this frame here, they're not doing a whole lot with it, unfortunately. That right there, these two cells right here you see are something to be concerned of, not as of right now. Right there, I'm not sure if I blocked it or not. Those are queen cells, where they're trying to push out the queen. Nothing of concern yet. There's no eggs in there. They just kind of built them to build them. Like, they call it a practice cell, where they're just making sure that they can create a queen, kind of. Nothing to worry about right now. But see, they're filling in this frame with nectar. I don't know if you can see that shining there or not in the sun, right here, right in this area. But they are filling this frame with nectar faster than they can build it. So we're gonna try to do a little checkerboarding, force them to build these frames faster, and with the sugar water, it should help them build them faster. But this, as of right now, if they keep building, will be an entire frame of honey. But we really need them to build this frame out so the queen has more space to lay eggs. Because at this rate, from what I'm seeing, she's not got much room to lay. One frame There was one frame, I think, that was really mostly eggs. The rest of it was just honey or nectar and pollen just packed in these cells. So we're gonna help them out. We're gonna checkerboard some of these and maybe move the one with the larvae up into this box. That's something you can also do to kind of draw them up into the next box and make them kind of go out into the next box and start building up there too. So we're gonna try a couple of things, and maybe in our 3rd week update next Thursday, we can see how much they've done. Hopefully they'll be a lot further than this, because this isn't the pace they need to be at. Okay, so I know in the last video I said you want to put them back in the way they came out, but when it's a new hive, you can kind of play with that a little bit, and they really need this encouragement here. They really need this motivation to build more comb, because the queen cannot sustain this hive at this rate. They are just bringing in resources faster than they can build comb and faster than the queen can lay the eggs. So we're going to try to help them out, checkerboard some of these frames, because they don't like the gaps. They'll fill in the comb wherever they can quicker, because they just won't like the way it's laid out. Okay, we're going to push this one over. Again, I did not find the queen today, but that's okay. That's not something you have to find. She's not one you have to find every single time you open it. As long as you see, eggs and larvae, you know she's in there, because worker bees can't do that themselves. I just need to find that frame of larvae real quick. I don't know if it was this one or not. This one does have a lot of capped brood on it. No, this one has too much pollen on it to move. So that's a tip I learned also. If you need to look at the frame, too many bees in the way, I'll do a demonstration here. You can give the frame a quick blow, just blow on it with your breath, and they move right out of the way for you. And you can see what's going on in there. They just don't like the wind blowing on them that much. Of course, you could say my breath stinks, but I promise I brushed my teeth. Okay. I'm thinking it was this 4th frame here. I need to take that frame out, move it up into the next box, and that'll encourage them to start working up there. So that's what I'm gonna do. This frame is almost entirely eggs on this back side. So the queen is probably over here. I don't see her just in a quick glance. But again, that's okay. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna set it to the side here. I'm gonna set it on the ground. They are really agitated that I'm taking this long. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together. I'm also gonna put this frame here. I'm also gonna move this frame to the outside. That way, I know they'll be working to close these gaps. So we're gonna put another empty frame here in the middle. Kind of force them to draw that comb out. Is that the queen? No. Okay. Again, she probably wouldn't be over here, because she knows that these frames are nothing but nectar and pollen. She knows that, so she's probably not going to come to this side. Yep, we're gonna checkerboard that frame there. And then we're gonna start, that one's gonna go to the next box. Fill in the gap. Then we'll take the second brood box here and we'll set it on top. Set it on top, square it up with your corners. And then we're going to take one of these combs out. We're going to put it right here. We're going to take this here. We're going to put it right in the middle. Right in the smack dab middle of this box. And it's got all the larvae on it, so the queen will definitely be around. The worker bees that feed the larvae throughout their larvae life will start to, they'll move up and they'll start feeding the larvae up here. The more bees that get drawn up, the faster they work out. I'll try to get this buttoned up as quick as I can. That way they can go about their lives and we can move on with this. Okay, there we go. It's all buttoned up. One thing I forgot to do. This gap you see here is the entrance, obviously. So there's three different ways you can set this up. You can set it up with the 1.5 inch gap, like I have. On a new hive, that's pretty important. They don't have a lot of guards around, so they can't protect as big of an area. So you put the little opening on there, and it's just a smaller area for them to protect. It's easier for them to guard. So one thing I didn't do, which I might try to do real quick, take the bottom box and just shift it back a little bit, and I'm gonna switch it to the 6 inch opening, just because recently I've noticed a lot of them really swarming that entrance. Like there's not enough room. So I'm gonna give them some more room. I'm gonna give them some more room. That way it's a little easier for all of them to get in and out. Now, again, you wanna be careful to not squish any. They love getting in the way, so don't squish any. Okay, so there's your entrance. So now it's a good, I think it's a 5.5, maybe 6 inch opening now. So it'll be a little better for them to go in and out. Yeah, that's good. Now we'll just take this box here and we'll set it back on top. All right, bigger opening, easier for them to get access. Now we're gonna button this up, and this time we'll be done. So that is gonna do it for this week's hive inspection. I know I didn't show a whole lot this week. I'm trying to be better and doing it faster, but also want to show you guys what I'm finding. I'm gonna monitor that opening, make sure it's not too big for the size hive it is. Next week, we're gonna see how far the comb has come with checkerboarding it and with putting that larvae section up top. So the queen and the workers will be going up into this box now because of where we put that all the larvae at. They're gonna wanna work up there, feed them, and then come back down and get more pollen and come back. Because when they're growing like that in the larvae stage, they require a lot of protein, which is what pollen is. It's just pretty much just straight protein. So that's gonna do it for this week. We are, again, gonna monitor it over the next week and just make sure they're doing everything properly. Hopefully they'll have more drone comb, and hopefully this entrance isn't too big. Hopefully more bees won't come in and try to steal their honey that they have going on. They don't have a lot of honey right now, It's mostly just nectar and a lot of pollen, very few larvae. And that's what we're trying to get them to do more of. Trying to get them to do more larvae instead of foraging, because the foragers, they don't know any better. They just go out, get what they can, and come back immediately. That's what they're designed to do. And the queen does everything she can to put eggs in there before they can fill it up with nectar and pollen. But sometimes the foragers are just a lot faster. There's more of them, so they just kind of pack it all full before she gets a chance to lay. So we're hoping they draw more comb so she has more room to lay, because right now I only seen 1 frame out of 5 that had larvae on it. I think next year this will be a really good honey producing hive, but that's not their primary function right now. Their primary function should be to build the hive as big as we can possibly get it, which is to fill both of these boxes. That's where we want it at. But that's not their main goal. Their main goal right now is to store food for the winter. And it's not winter. It's a nice, probably 86 degrees today. So they got plenty of time to store. We just got to help them in that process of laying the eggs. So stay tuned. I want to thank the 11 people that subscribed in the last week. It's really cool to see. I know some of you are thinking, oh, 11, that's not much, but hey, when you start at nothing, 11's a lot. So I'm trying to build these numbers up, so if you would like and subscribe, that'd be great. And you can follow me on this journey into the apiary that I'm going to be building next year. So like and subscribe if you want to see more.